We made it. 2025 is now behind us. Congratulations. Let's get 2026 started. And what we're going to do, we're going to talk a little bit about last year recap, move in, talk about the stats for December. And then I'm going to do a separate video that really dives into what are our year over year trends, not just month over month, but what did we see last year? How does that fit with a longer term real estate trend here in the greater Sacramento region? And then talk about where things could possibly go. Nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody knows for sure. If they say they do, I don't know. I say they're full of it. So we can extrapolate. We can come up with some very educated guesses, but nobody knows for sure. And we do the best that we can with the information we get as things start to unfold. Like I said, welcome to 2026. It was quite a year, and I know for a lot of folks, it's a little bit challenging, and the mantra was just survive through 2025. So I know back in 24, it was kind of survive until 25, and then 2025 came along, and it was a little bit challenging as well. So lots of economic and political turbulence this last year. And just for fun, here are the top 5 most searched economic topics, which might give you some insight into consumer thought processes and their mindset. So in no specific order, we have tariffs, obviously, government shutdown, interest rates, inflation, cost of living, and the recession economic risk. So those are kind of the top 5 economic search terms for the year, and pretty much in line with everything that we were seeing. Quite a wild year. These are challenging topics as well. Day-to-day cost and financial stability definitely still feel off. So, and that is in spite of some pretty positive financial points from the macro level, right? There were gold and silver, the S&P, those hit all-time highs. If you were invested any of those, congratulations. You probably had a pretty good year from that standpoint. GDP grew by 4.3%, which was better than expected. We had a great Q3. The Fed started cutting interest rates in 2025. That was also a positive, depending on how that impacts you directly. All that being said, those points might not directly impact your day-to-day when you check out at the grocery store. I hope that those things indicate there are some strong fundamentals, and maybe we'll have a little bit better year in 2026. So again, AI was a huge buzzword, worked its way into just about everything. And consumers, myself included, used AI for everything from basic research, creating crazy videos, writing reports, doing homework, and even trying to predict betting and stock market trends. Does it work? Not always. My take on AI, it's come a long way. It still has a long way to go. It's a tool, right? So the impact of those AI tools are whatever you make it. And I will say it's not going away. I know a lot of folks are talking about an AI bubble, and the industry may be in a bubble. However, in my opinion, it might pop, but it will stabilize, it will consolidate. And I do think that AI will follow a trend similar to when the internet came out and we saw mainstream adoption, and now that is an integrated part of our lives. So again, this brings 2 quotes to mind. The first, thank you to Uncle Ben, is with great power comes great responsibility. Number 2, compliments of Lord Acton, is that power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So I think we need to be cautious, make sure that we're using AI in positive ways and not let it take over. So that being said, I encourage everyone, the start of this year, take a breath, unplug for a little while, go touch some grass, and just approach this year with a little bit more kindness to our fellow citizens. We are so polarized right now, so divided. And in my opinion, we live in one of, if not the greatest country in the world. There is so much opportunity here. We are blessed with so much. And I would love to see us be grateful for that and just come together as human beings this year. So that's my wish. Let's dig into the reason that you're all here, the Sacramento region December real estate statistics. So we're going to talk about all residential properties. This includes vacant land. It includes duplexes, triplexes, single family homes, condos, townhomes, all of that. I like to look at everything from a macro level. However, when I meet with my clients and we're talking about single family homes, I do dig in more specifically for detailed information. So if you do want a consultation, buyers or sellers, reach out directly. I'd be glad to sit down with you and put together a specific plan for your needs or for your home. Digging into it, Tri-County area, properties for sale dropped by 23.5%. Pendeds dropped by 12.5%, but we had a small bump in the number of sales, which was interesting to me because Pendeds have been declining for the last few months. So number of sales actually jumped up by 7.8%. And maybe that's just a lot of people trying to push a sale through before the end of the year. Maybe there's some 30-day contracts that were supposed to close in January and buyers and sellers said, hey, if we can speed this up and close this year, let's do it. So I thought that was a little bit interesting. And the number of Pendeds has actually been declining for the last 7 months. So to then have a spike in sales, that one caught my eye. Days on market increased 9.1% from 55 to 60 days. The list price to sold price ratio held stable at 96% for the 5th straight month. So that's just where the market is transacting right now. On average, sellers are overpricing property by 4%, but I do believe single family residence is the same at 96%. The median sold price for all residential property dropped 0.2%, so not much of a change November to December. That is now sitting at $554,000. Interesting, that is actually 3.7% lower than the median sold price was last December. So year over year, a drop. But in my next video, I'm going to talk about those things from a much higher level, and you'll see some year over year trends were actually more flat, didn't really decline too much. This year, December, well, I should say 2025 December was actually about the same number as January 2025. So 11 months was flat, 12 months declined. So we always have to watch out for that. And one of my pet peeves, you can always spin data however you want. So you can make a sensational headline and say, oh my God, from June to August, the real estate market crashed. And you go, well, yeah, but from May to September, it was actually up. So which one do you want to use? So anyway, we have to be careful about that stuff and look at it from multiple different angles. For those months, inventory actually dropped November to December by 28.6%. So that's down from 2.8 months down to 2. So huge difference there. And as I expected, go back and watch some of my past videos. All these news articles, headlines, stories, videos, everything was talking about, decade high inventory levels. And I said, wait. I don't think this is a systemic change. This is just a seasonal trend. And guess what? It was. Inventory dropped like a rock. But I would say good news, overall, there are a lot of motivated sellers out there. There is some good inventory. So I'd say for buyers, rates have come down a little bit from where they were a year ago or even 2 years ago. So that's a positive trend. And, we'll see what happens in Q1. I would say for buyers though, what I'm seeing with this lack of inventory, if you're having a challenge finding homes that work for you, I would encourage you, this might be a good time to have that come to Jesus talk with yourself and sit down, take some time, write out that wants and needs list, and then take a look and say, does this align with what is actually available in the market right now? If it doesn't, then at that point, I'd say you probably have two decisions. One of those is just say, hey, we're done. We're going to wait because what we want is not available today at the price that we want it. You have two options. You can wait, see what happens in the future, or you can say, maybe we need to move this need to a want. It'd be nice, but maybe we're not going to get that with our budget in the current market. So might be time to really go through that because in my opinion, what we've been seeing for the last 6 months, actually the last 12 months, is probably going to be what we're going to see for the next 12 months. There's not going to be some crazy availability of these beautiful renovated properties and all of a sudden a ton of them are going to hit the market. That's just not it. The people that have those homes are still holding on to them and they're not going to sell unless they have to. So I would say get used to what's out there right now, work with what we have available. Once in a while, if you can get a great property without fighting a bunch of other buyers for it. Just saw one that had, I think they ended up with 13 offers, but it was a nice house. It was a great house. Buyers have been missing that stuff. And when it comes up, they jump on it. So I would encourage you as buyers, readjust, take a look at your wants and needs again and see if that works with the market. For sellers, I would encourage you, if you want to get top dollar, figure out, is there any way that you can make some small renovations to a property? Maybe paint your house, maybe redo one of the bathrooms or spruce up the kitchen a little bit, you know, whatever that is to get it closer to the feel of a new home. It will definitely work in your favor this year. And I will say from personal experience, a lot of the homes that I've been involved with, either showing, selling, or representing buyers and making offers on that have been nicely renovated, those are the ones that sell quickly. So I would seriously consider that if you're a seller, find a way. If you're one of my clients this year, I would say we do have some options to cover the cost of those things, and then they can get reimbursement at closing. So there are some other options. Ask me about that. We can talk about it. So moving on to Placer County. Residential properties in Placer County, number of properties for sale dropped by 23.2% in December. So huge drop off for the holidays there. Pendeds dropped by 11.1. Solds increased in Placer County as well by 8.1%. So interesting. I think there was just a big end of the year push by a lot of people. Let's get the home sold. Let's get into a home, whatever the case was. Days on market in Placer increased from 63 to 64. So not much change there. Good to see some stability around the holidays. The list price to sold price ratio held stable in Placer County at 95%. So 1% lower than the Tri-County average. Now it actually started the year at 97%. So dropped by 2% over the last 12 months. So that's a combination of things. That could be some sellers, you know, just being too out of touch with the market and overpricing their listings instead of being realistic. That's also some buyers being very aggressive and coming in with what I've seen in many cases, I hate to use the R word, but a little bit ridiculous offers. And most of those don't work. Once in a while they do. So the combination of those things, it just pushed the list price to sale price ratio down a little bit. Median sold price in Placer County declined 1.2%. So it's now down to $640 for all residential property. In Placer County, the single family home median price also declined. That is $645 for the month of December. Inventory levels dropped 29.4%. So from 2.7 to 1.9 months, huge drop off for the holidays. The way I look at that is there are a lot of sellers that are motivated, want to get their homes sold. It didn't quite work out in 2025. I think a lot of them are going to be back in 2026, giving it another try. And depending on what mortgage rates do, that may actually help this year. If that gives buyers a little bit more buying power, they can come in and maybe bridge that gap between what the sellers want, what the buyers are willing to pay. They might say, hey, rates are a little bit better. All right, I'll give you closer to what you wanted last year. And I think we may actually see some more volume this year. We're going to see more listings. I think we're going to see more buyers getting into the market. Not going to be a huge turnaround from what we've seen the last couple of years, but I do expect a little bit more volume. So we'll see. We'll come back to this video a year from now and see how close I was to that prediction. So again, overall, it is really hard to project exactly, but we look at the data, we do the best we can, and it's kind of fun to guess. So we'll see how it goes. If there's anything I can answer for you, anything I can do to help, please reach out. I love our community here. I'm so grateful to be in Placer County and the greater Sacramento region, Northern California. I've been so blessed to travel a pretty decent amount, and I always come back to, I just say Northern California is such an amazing place. It's beautiful. There's so much opportunity here. So I'm very grateful for that. Have a wonderful year, everybody, and keep an eye out for the next video to go over a year-over-year trend and kind of break down what we're seeing on a longer-term macro real estate market statistic. So thanks again. See you next time.